Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Kemp here. I am going to give you a recap of the column method and how to use this for multiplying with 1, 2 and 3 digit numbers. We'll start off with 1 at mild, go up to 2 for spicy and on to 3 digit numbers for hot. This is the method that has placeholder zeros or faux if you're in my class. So enjoy and I hope that it's helpful for you. You'll need a pencil and a piece of paper to get started. If you've got squared paper, I would probably choose that. If you're not feeling confident with your times tables, you might want to have a practice of them first. And remember, you can always write the tables that you need down the side before you start the longer calculation. First, I'm going to show you how to multiply 3 digits by 1 digit using the column method. 343 times 4. We set them out on top of each other in this method. 343 times by 4. It's really important to make sure that we keep our columns lined up here. So the 3 and the 4 go on top of each other here because they both represent ones. We're going to start off by doing 3 times 4, which is 12. Carry the 1 and put the 2 in. On to the tens next. We'll do 4 times 4 is 16, add the 1 is 17. And finally the hundreds. 3 times 4 is 12, add the 1 is 13. 343 times 4 is 1372. Have a go at this next one yourself just to check that you're confident with this method before we move on to 2-digit multiplication. 743 times 5. Set your calculation out and then pause the video. Okay, let's check our answers. We start off with 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. Then 4 times 5 is 20. Add the 1 is 21. And finally, 7 times 5 is 35, add the 2 is 37. 743 times 5 is 3,715. If you got that, you're ready to move on. Next, I'm going to show you how to use this column method to work with 2-digit multiplication. We'll get started with 435 times by 23. We set it out the same way to start off with. 435 on top because it's the largest number, multiplied by 23 underneath. See how I've been really careful to keep my columns set up again. This time you're going to need more space underneath for your calculation, because essentially what we're going to do is do 435 times 3 and then 435 times 20. The first few steps are just like the previous calculation while we're working with the ones. So we'll start off with 3 times 5 is 15. We keep it up the top there. Next we've got 3 times 3 is 9, add the 1 is 10. And 4 times 3 is 12, add the 1 is 13. Now the next part is really important. We now need to deal with the 2, but we need to remember that it's actually representing 20. So we don't want to start in the ones, we want to start in the tens column. And because of that, we put in a placeholder 0 into the ones column. If you're in my class, you might remember that we called him faux, placeholder 0. And he needs to go in there, so our next part of the calculation represents that we are working now with tens. Okay, we're ready to go. 5 times 2 is 10. Now when we put it into the grid, you'll hopefully see that that's actually showing us 100. And that's why the placeholder 0 is important. Because what we're actually writing here is 5 times 20, which we know is 100. Moving on to the next part, we've got 3 times 2. And 3 times 2 is 6, add the 1 is 7. And finally, 4 times 2 is 8. The last step is to add these together. The first row in green is representing the 435 times by 3. The second row in blue is representing 435 times by 20. So in order to get 435 times by 23, we need to add those two parts together. 5 add 0 is 5, 0 add 0 is 0, 3 add 7 is 10, carrying the 1, 8 add the 2 is 10, carry the 1, and our final answer is 10,005. 435 times 23 is 10,005. Okay, it's your turn to practice. I'll write the main part of the calculation out for you, and I'll put the placeholder 0 in this time. Then you have a go at the rest of the steps yourself. 946 times 34. I lay them out on top of each other first. I'm remembering to leave my double space to work with my 4 and my 30, and then my line where I can do my addition. I put the placeholder 0 into my ones column on the second level to make sure that I can start that level in the tens column. Pause the video now and have a go at the rest of the calculation. Okay, let's see how you got on. We start off as always with the ones. 6 times 4 is 24, carry the 2. 4 times 4 is 16, add the 2 is 18. 9 times 4 is 36, add the 1 is 37. Now we're moving down onto our tens. We're starting off with 6 times 3, remember it's really 6 times 30, which is 18 or 180. See how the placeholder 0 is making it 180. Next we'll do 4 times 3 is 12, add 1 is 13, and then 9 times 3 is 27, add the 1 is 28. It's really important, if you're needing to move on and make a new column, don't try and squish them all in, or you'll lose track of which column you're in. Leave them nicely spaced out. It's okay if it goes off the end of your original calculation. The last step is to add them all together. 4 add 0 is 4, 8 add 8 is 16, carry the 1, 7 add 3 add the 1 is 11, 8 add 3 is 11, add the 1 is 12, and at the end 2 and 1 is 3. So our answer is 32,164. This time have a go at adding the placeholder 0 or faux in yourself. Write out the calculation, pause the video and have a go. Okay, let's see how you got on. Did you remember to put in your placeholder 0 on the second row? Here he is, making sure that your second row represents the tens multiplication. Okay, 3 times 6 is 18, carry the 1. 7 times 6 is 42, add the 1 is 43. 6 times 6 is 36, add the 4 is 40. On to the tens now. 3 times 4 is 12, carry the 1. 7 times 4 is 28, add the 1 is going to be 29. And then finally 6 times 4 is 24, add the 2 is 26. Let's add our calculations together. 8 add 0 is 8, 3 add 2 is 5, 0 add 9 is 9, 4 add 6 is 10, I'll carry the 1, and then 3 goes in there to add 1. Our answer is 30,958. If you're feeling really confident with the 1 and 2 digit multiplication, I'm going to show you how to do it with 3 digits. It's just an extension of what we've done so far, but you don't need to know this yet. It's really just there as a challenge if it's something that you're wanting to take on yourself. If it's seeming like a bit much, don't worry about it. Stick with the 2-digit multiplication and consolidate that learning first. Okay, let's take 10,062 multiplied by 24. No, that's not 3 digits. Okay, let's take 10,062 multiplied by 243. The first steps are exactly the same. Set them out with the largest number on top and the smaller one underneath, carefully lined up. We're going to need more space this time because essentially what we're going to do is do 1062 multiplied by 3, then 1062 multiplied by 40, and finally 1062 multiplied by 200. So we're essentially going to need to imagine this as 3 spaces. You don't need the dots, I'm just putting them in to help you visualize it. The first line, just like before, does not need a placeholder 0 because we're working in the ones, so we're already where we need to be. The second line here is where we're going to work with the tens. We'll need our placeholder 0 in the ones, just like before, so that our answer can start in the tens column. What do you think we need for the bottom row where we're working with the hundreds? If you said that we need 2 placeholder zeros, then you are absolutely right. We need our answer to be coming into the hundreds column, and so we put our placeholder 0 in our ones and tens, ready to start our answer in our hundreds column. Now that we've got our placeholder zeros ready, we can get started. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 0 times 3 is 0, but we've already got our 1 there, so we put that up. And 1 times 3 is 3. Moving on now to our tens. 2 times 4 is 8. Remember, it's really 2 times 40, so we can check there that we've got our placeholder 0 in the right place, and we have. 6 times 4 is 24. 0 times 4 is 0, but we have our 2 there to take up. And 1 times 4 is 4. On now to our hundreds. 2 times 2 is 4. And we can check there our placeholder zeros are in the right place by thinking that really what we're doing is 2 times 200, and we can see there our 400 as the answer. So moving on, 6 times 2 is 12. 0 times 2 is 0, but we have our 1 there, and 1 times 2 is 2. With these larger calculations, you'll often find that you go off the end. That's fine, just imagine that there's another column there and keep your numbers nicely spaced. What we've done here is 1062 times by 3, 1062 times by the 40, and finally 1062 times by the 200. So what we're doing finally here is adding them all up to get our total. We've got 6, 16, 10, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, and 2. So our final answer here is 258,066.